Hey, happy Saturday, everybody. I'm going to continue our devotions today. Hope everybody's good and you're having a good day, enjoying the weekend. So, we've been in the book of Philemon this week. And as you know, this is a letter that's written by Paul to Philemon. And Paul is asking that Philemon forgive and accept back Onesimus, who used to be a slave of Paul's, but has likely stolen from him and ran off. And so that's what this letter is about. And so we're going to continue today. And as I share my screen, we're going to look at just a few verses today. Jason had covered a few of the verses in the introduction to this letter as Paul and Jason covered that in his devotion, that it talked about how Paul is calling out that he writes to Philemon in love, right? He writes to Philemon in love, and that he recognizes that the love of God is manifested in the faith of Philemon, um, in his faith in God through his actions. So he covered a little bit of the opening, and I'm going to pick up where Jason left off, and I'm going to start with verse 7 today. And so when we look at verse 7, as Paul's writing, he says, "For we have great joy and consolation in thy love, because the bowels of the saints are refreshed by thee, brother." And Jason touched on that a little bit, and I'd like to say, that it's saying here that Paul finds great joy and comfort in Philemon's love. So why does he find great joy and consolation, or great comfort in his love? And it says, because the bowels of the saints are refreshed by him. And Jason talked about a refreshing drink of water. But what that means, bowels, is another way of how we would say our heart today. Like you can tell what you feel in your heart, or what you have in your heart, or what you've accepted in your heart. That's what they were talking about here when they say bowels. In other words, how they feel on their inside, what's in their soul, right? And so do you, when you think about that, and Paul saying, writing to Philemon, I recognize that you refresh people's heart, you refresh people's soul. Do you have somebody that comes to mind today that when you're around them, and you know that they're a believer, it's just refreshing to be around them? It's just encouraging and uplifting to be around them. I have people who come to mind for me, and hopefully you do too. I think it's important that we build each other up, and that we are encouragers and uplifters to our brothers and sisters around us, as well as non-believers around us. But then after verse 7, we get through the section of the book where Paul begins to appeal with Philemon for the case for Onesimus, right? And so from verses 8 through 19, Paul is pleading this case to forgive and accept Onesimus, and accept him back into his circle and into his ministry. And so we talked this week about how Paul said that Onesimus he was unprofitable but had become profitable, right, in verses 10 and 11. And Andrew covered that in his devotion this week, and the change that he was able to see in Onesimus from unprofitable to profitable. And we related that to the change that we can see in our lives before we have Christ. We were unprofitable, or we're living in sin, to after we've accepted Christ. We are profitable now. We have a promise in Jesus, a promise of eternity with Him. And then we talked about accepting him back. Paul talked about accepting him back, not only as a servant, but as a beloved brother. And TJ touched on that in verse 16 this week, on how, don't just bring him back as a slave, but I want you to bring him back as a brother, somebody that you love and is going to be close to you. And then, as a matter of fact, receive him. He says, receive him just as you would me. And that was covered in verse 17. And then also, whatever he did, put it on my account, right? Whatever he did, I will pay for it, is what Paul was saying. And that's what Jody covered in his section this week. And then also, Paul was trying to say he's now a new man, right? The old man is gone. What was the old Onesimus has now changed to the new Onesimus. And that's what John was talking about yesterday in his devotion. And so Paul's trying to help Philemon see that there's been a change in Onesimus, and that he needs to forgive him and show him grace and accept him back. And so as we look then now to the next verse, I want to talk about verses 20 and 21. Here's what he says. It says, "Yeah, brother, let me have joy of thee in the Lord. Refresh my bowels in the Lord." That reflects back to what we read in verse 7. And then it says, "Having confidence in thy obedience, I wrote unto you, knowing that you will also do more than I say." So if we think about that just for a second, verse 20, Paul says he's considering all I've told you about this guy. Let me find joy in you and find a refreshing of my heart um, by what you will do for Onesimus. So, in other words, just like I know that you are refreshing to the souls of other people around you by your faith in God and your ministry, you could do that same to me. It would be so refreshing for me to be able to see you accept and forgive Onesimus and bring him back into your life. And then verse 21, he's basically saying he's building him up here. He says, I know you'll do it, right? He says, I have confidence in your obedience to God. And as a matter of fact, I know you'll even do more than what I'm asking you to do. So I have faith and confidence in you that not only will you forgive him and accept him back, that you will bring him closer to a brother, that you will, bring him along as part of your ministry, and it'll be more than even I can imagine. And so, what an encourager that Paul is in this letter to Onesimus, and building him up to do the right thing and building him up to do the Christ-like thing. Right? We've talked about how Christ showed us mercy and grace and forgiveness, and that's how we became changed from an old creature to a new creature. That's exactly what Paul is urging Philemon to do here, and so showing that forgiveness, just as that's how Christ showed us. So think about that today. I hope you'll be an encourager today to somebody. Build up confidence in someone today. Let them know that what they do refreshes you, and you do the same for somebody else. Be refreshing to someone's heart today, and be an encourager, and build each other up. So I hope you've enjoyed the devotions this week, and hope you guys will have a good rest of the day. Be sure to visit us tomorrow for service at 11 at Mount Olive. We'll be having service in the gym, or you can join us online. But either way, we hope to see you. Love you guys, and hope you have a great rest of the day.